Welcome everybody, a special welcome again to the members. Today it's a bit more light, so you will actually be able to see the boats today. We might get a bit of a storm going as well, so it's a very exciting soon cooking. Also a big welcome to my clients and all of my staff, the CYC staff that's watching tonight. And of course, a big thank you again to the Cruise and Yacht Club of Australia for hosting this fun event. We are tonight cooking with you Gravlax, which is one of my signature dishes. I've done it with Mabel Mara many times on Fruit Safari, and a lot of you have seen it on the menu here at the club in very different forms and shapes, and I'm going to show you some of those tonight. So what we're going to start with is we're going to prepare the salmon. So this is a salmon fillet. In the recipe card that I sent out, it said 1.5 kilo. This is slightly smaller. I like it to be between 1 kilo and 1.5 kilo. I think you get the best result. It cures more evenly. If you have a really fat fillet, you kind of sometimes get it very rawish at close to the skin. With a fillet this size, it's about 2 centimeters thick, you will get a very evenly cured. So what we're going to start with, we're just going to check that there's no bones left in there. There is not. Then we're just going to cut off the top up here where the top fin is. You can kind of, with your thumb, just press it a bit aside. And then just let the knife down here. Then just cut the top off here where you have the bones in. I always cut the tail bits off because it gets a bit over-cured compared to the rest of the salmon. And it's just a shame because it will get too salty. So I always cut it off. Use it for rissoles, use it for sushi. You can use it for anything. Or just chop it in the oven, bake it, and mix it in with the salad. You can do the same with the belly. Same thing, it's going to be cured way too quick. So we're just going to cut off the fatty bit. And then again, just slide it across. Get rid of that. As I mentioned, it's a little bit smaller than the recipe card. When I do the cure, it's pretty much the same basic method you use for any kind of curing you're doing. As we're just going to lift this to the tray. Turn this cutting board around. So first we're going to start with the salt. There's, again, like I mentioned last time, as many ways of curing a salmon as these recipes for rissoles in Australia. The classic recipe I have is the most common from Denmark. It is about 60 grams of salt. It doesn't need to be anything fancy, just normal kitchen salt. All it's doing is pulling out the fat and the water in the salmon so the flavors can go back in. So that's why I just use very normal salt. It's very quick. So you just spread it out evenly. And then the little bit you have left, put it on where it's most thick. So up here on the top bit, closest to the back of the fish, on top of the fish. Again, I'm not going to use it all because it is a little bit smaller today. Then I'm going to add the sugar. Again, just normal sugar. Doesn't need to be anything special. Again, a bit more where the salmon fillet is really thick. Then the fennel powder. I normally always use whole fennel. It's the best to use the whole fennel seeds. Give them a quick saute on a dry pan. You'll get the flavors out there. let it chill, and then you put it in a grinder and grind it really well. Use the old retired coffee grinder. They are excellent for that, as long as you don't use the coffee again afterwards, because then it's not very nice. So I have an old one in the kitchen I use for herbs and spices like this, chili and fennels and peppercorns and whatever we want to use, because it is better to use the whole seeds than buying the powder. You never know what's in there. So I've done that earlier. So we just a very generous of fennel here. And back the other two, a little bit extra where the salmon is a little bit extra thick. Then to finish off with, we're going to put some freshly chopped dill on. I would use about 2 bunches, 1.5 bunches, 2 bunches for this salmon. So we're going to chop the bottom of the dill and use for the marinade, and then the top we're going to use for the dressing and for when you take it out of the fridge after 3 days and clean it up, which I'm going to show you in a minute. So I'm just chopping this fairly, doesn't need to be super fine. You can also use dry dill. That's actually very much used in Scandinavia, because dill, you know, back when this recipe was made, there was only dill for a very short time at summer. So therefore, and this is a recipe that's especially used a lot around Christmas, and Christmas in Denmark is, you know, when it's really cold in winter. So you can use with success the dried dill. If you use the dried dill, I would recommend it only when you cure it, not when you're actually taking all the marinades off and then slicing it afterwards, because it is a bit more potent. So you can put a bit on if you like. You will get a bit more of a kernel and sea flavor, because it is a bit more sharp. And then you just put on the salmon, you put on all of the chopped stalks, like that. And then you just chop up the top of the dill for the dressing. Put on with the one I prepared a bit earlier, 3 days ago. You can do this recipe cured fish with many other in many other ways, shapes, and forms. You just do the same thing, about 60 grams of salt and sugar, and then you can add on a lot of different things. A very popular one we actually had on the menu as well down here was vodka and beetroot. So you just put on grated beetroot on top of the salt and the sugar, and then you drizzle it with vodka. Another favorite one of mine is with lime and fresh fennel. Again, salt and sugar on, and then some raw, very fine shaved fennel, and lots of slices of lime. Don't put the lime on first. If you use a really acidic thing, it will burn the salmon. It'll go quite white on top. So if you want to use orange or lemon or lime, make sure you put some herbs or some vegetables on first. So now we have this dill. Let me just get that aside. So just to recap, a side of salmon, we clean it up, make sure there's no bones in it, and I didn't mention always have skin on the bottom. It will keep it better together, and you will find it much easier to slice it. Salt, sugar on the fennel, the fennel powder, and then the chopped veal. And then what this goes in the fridge for about 3 days. So if you're cooking with me now, that means it will be ready on Sunday, Monday, public holiday, good timing. And put it in a fridge, again, as we talked about, with the mussels that we want to keep for a few days. This needs to be in a fridge that is not opened all the time. So the one in the garage that you use for beers when you have a barbecue, the fridge that is not opened all the time by the kids, that's where you need to put this, cover it up, and put it in the fridge for, I would say, minimum 3 days. That over here. Then we have one here that we have prepared earlier. And we also need to make a dressing that I'm going to use for all of the recipes. So why don't we do that first? The dressing that I put in the recipe card as well is what we call varieties in Denmark. It's a really good combination because it is quite of a fat fish. And so this will give it a bit of a sharp edge to it. And as I said, really easy. So it's the same amount of brown sugar as Dijon. So if you put in about 100 ml of brown sugar, you're pushed in really well for 100 ml, sorry, and then about 100 ml of Dijon mustard. Just mix it well together. And then a bit of the fresh dill that we just chopped. Just a few spoonfuls. So just give that a really good mix. And very simple. Same amount of Dijon mustard as brown sugar. And then just mix it in. Make sure there's no lumps. And as I said, it was called mayo sauce, which is a bit of a sharp dressing, which I really enjoy with it. Just gonna see if I can put it in this gel here without making too much of a mess. So I like to use it for, especially when I do the canapes and when I do the entree. You can also use this dressing for glazed ham. It goes really well with glazed ham or any kind of cured meats. So back to the salmon. So this has been in the fridge for 3.5 days. You can see how the liquid has started to come out and the flavor from the dill and the fennel have started to sink in. If you notice the color on the salmon earlier, now when I'm scraping this aside, you'll notice that it has started to go a little bit darker. And that means that the flavors have started to intensify a bit. So when I scrape this off, and you can also feel that the salmon is not that raw, soft feeling anymore. So it has started to firm up and the flavors have started to come in. So you just scrape that off. You don't need to clean it off, 100% because it is just salt, sugar, dill, fennel. So, but I like to get most of it off. Then what we do is get the fresh dill. And you give that a generous out. And then I like to just have it on just a little bit firm so it doesn't fall. Oh. So that was about 1.5 punch of dill I used there. As I mentioned, use the fresh dill here the second time around, not the dry dill. So, here we go. So now we're ready to slice the dill, the Gravlax. Just my mess here. To cut the salmon, you need a salmon knife, or you need something that's really sharp and really thin. If you use a knife that's really thick, you will the salmon will kind of fall apart when you slice it. And when you have a knife that is very thin, then you can slice it very thin. We have a saying in Denmark, you need to be able to write or read a love letter through the slices. So, because that's apparently written with very soft hand. So that's what you're supposed to. If you get to this point and you don't at all, you can't slice it really thin, you know, you just put less on the plate. Or you could do the tattoo way and you just cut it straight down. And you just give you like a finger kind of a slice in the middle of the plate, put the garnish around. I'm going to show you where you put several slices on the plate. Use it like that. We've had many fights over the years with Sweden, and one of the things the Danes and the Swedes are fighting about is who came up with Gravlax. And of course, it was the Danes. The Gravlax comes from the gravet, which means digged down, because when this recipe came around, there was of course no fridges or anything like that. So what we did, we marinated, cured it, and we then dug a hole in the ground 5 feet down, and then we could kind of have it in caves like that, and that way it was kept cold. So you just cut, I'm gonna try not to do it too quick, but you just cut thin slices. You can, if you want to, I'm going to show you how to do a canapé, and of course we need some of the smaller slices for that. With the picnic and the breakfast, we can use the bigger slices. And for the entree, I like to cut it a little bit more of a hard angle, so we can get several slices on, and we can still get some of the other ingredients on the plate as well. Yeah, so I'm cutting down to the skin. So the skin is, as you can see here on the cutting board. Ask your where you buy the fish to actually descale it. The pieces you buy at Coles and Woolworths is actually descaled as well, so you don't have to worry about that. But as I mentioned, when you have the skin on, you can see the fish is not moving at all. It's kind of firm on the cutting board, and it makes it so much easier to slice. So I think we have about enough here. This Gravlax you can actually with success freeze down. Freeze it down just before, when you have marinated it for 3 days. When you take off all the salt and the sugar and the fennel and the dill, then you can freeze it down. And it is good to put in the freezer for about I would say maximum 3 months if you have it at a freezer that is always below -19. And that's if you do a whole side and just the 2 of you or the 4 of you, you can do it that way. If you want to slice it and eat it over a few days, I would say maximum 3 days. If you have a Gravlax machine, you can successfully Gravlax it and just have it for 1 or 2 more days. But I would prefer if you use it fresh, and if you know you're not going to use it, then freeze it down. And then when you take it out of the freezer, that's when you put the fresh dill on, so it's nice and green. If you put the dill on first and then freeze it down, the dill will go at like a brownish color, and it won't be that nice. So I think we have plenty here. So I'm just going to put this away. It's a little white. So what we're gonna be doing now, we're gonna show a few different options to use the Gravlax. We're gonna do a breakfast idea for you, which have been on the breakfast special a few times. We had to put it on, actually repeat it a few times because we had so many requests. We're gonna do a cute little canapé that you can serve before a barbecue or serve before your picnic. And I'm going to do you up a very simple but elegant entree. And then last, how you can add it to a picnic basket. So you can show off all your friends what you have learned here in lockdown. It's a great little thing. And as I mentioned, with this salmon I showed was about a kilo, a little bit over a kilo. You can buy the small single serve at Coles and Woolies. But just then, I would say for a normal normal piece you get at Coles and Woolworths, just use about 20 grams of salt, sugar, and that should be fine. So we'll start with the breakfast. So this is all things that, you know, on a Sunday or Monday when the salmon is marinated, you cut it out, you can use it for any of these ideas. And there are many more ideas you can use it for, but this is just a few of them. So with this idea, we have a piece of toasted sourdough. You put on some smashed avocado. That on here. You can make it a lane. Of course, you're going to put lots of chili in this, but I like to make it a bit more mild because it is going with cured salmon, which is quite of an elegant flavor. Put on some of your favorite salad leaves. Plus, I find goes really well. It's kind of crunchy. Then we'll put on some Gravlax. Just put on, twist them a little bit. You can spread them out as much as you want. I think 4 or 5 pieces would do the trick. Then I'll add some pickled onions. I think that goes really well with this because it has a little bit of a bite as well. It's a very easy way of doing pickled onions. Half vinegar, half sugar, boil it, pour it over the onions, which you've sliced. That's it. And they will last in the fridge for a month. And they have a really nice crunchy flavor to it. And they have a gorgeous color as well. So put a few of these on, and you can add some peppercorns. You can add some, I've added some bay leaves here from my garden, just to give a little bit more flavor. Put a few of those. They'll give a little bit of a crunch and a little bit of sourness as well. On. together. So I like to add a poached egg. Of course, I poached this beforehand, so it's not warm, but add a poached egg on top. You can add 2. A little bit of salsa, tomato salsa, with a little bit of parsley, some Spanish onions. Go a little bit over the plate, that's fine. A little bit of dill. And then, of course, the dressing that I made before, which was half Dijon mustard, half brown sugar, and a bit of fresh dill. So we just give a little bit of this on. And then you have a bit of a breakfast special to impress your friends with the dill filled salmon that we made yourself. Here we go. Toasted sourdough, Gravlax, smashed avocado, some pickled onions for a bit of crunch, some salsa, and the dressing on. Then, as we talked about, I'll do the canapé. So have a bit of a, I'll put these away. I've toasted some baguettes here. You can cut up some bread, do rye bread, whatever you like. I'll take the dressing here just to use a little bit as a glue. Put a little salad leaf on. I like to put a green leaf on that makes the salmon pop a little bit more. And here we then, as I talked about, let's use the smaller pieces up here at the top. Just twist it around and make a little rose to put on. Just a little bit of dressing on top. Some salmon eggs, just to make it pop again. And a little bit of top. Let's go. And there you have a little canapé to start a dinner party with. For this canapé, to start with, because it's such an elegant thing, I would recommend a really good champagne. A bit like the Hansen is a really nice champagne. Again, it's a very elegant champagne. It has a hint of lime, a hint of strawberry, a little bit of earthy flavors as well, which will go well with this Gravlax. So I would say that's a beautiful combination to go with for that. I'll just pop this over here. Then I'll show you a really elegant entree, and it's the slices of salmon with, you can pretty out with, you know, whatever herbs you have in the garden, whatever herbs are in season. So put on a few slices, just a bit random on the plate. I'll just take some bit smaller slices. Some of the smaller pieces, so we just put them like that. Put a little bit of the dressing on again, just a few dots here and there. I like to use a little bit of target radish. It'll give it a bit of funny textures and also a bit of different color. And again, just put them on a little bit random around. So, a few edible flowers. They are coming into season again now. Put them on. This is some baby celery. Any kind of microherbs. They are again coming into season now. There's some. This is, as I said, baby celery. There's also some baby coriander has also come into season now. Put them on. Then I've toasted off a little bit of the rye bread. It's a very Danish thing, and it also gives a bit of a crunch to the entree. So do a few of those. As I said, you can use whatever is available at the vegetable shop of microherbs or edible flowers. You can use dill, but we've used that a lot tonight, so I won't add that. And a little bit of salmon eggs. Just give it a little bit of fun. Then you can put a little bit of olive oil on, or I have a little bit of dill oil. I said I wouldn't use dill, now I'm using it anyway. So just a little bit of green oil. There we go. That looks really pretty, and it is really simple. Just the salmon on, the dressing on, put some herbs, some edible flowers, salmon eggs. You can use other kinds of caviars, and that way, you know, put in some crunchy things. So if you don't have rye bread, you can use normal bread croutons. And for this, I talked to Marina, and we thought it would be good to pair it with the French rosé that we have here at the club. It is from very close to the Mediterranean, from the Provence area. And Marina is selling it in the lockdown bottle shop for $27, which is a great value. And it's a very fruity, very mild flavor, and it will go very well with the salmon, and yeah, a bit of hickory lemon as well. So that would be a good choice, and for sale here at the bottle shop. So last, we will try and be able to impress your friends with a picnic box. So I have taken a few things that we have here, or have here at the fridge, have here at the club, getting ready for the opening up.
Yes, but just before we get onto that, question from Roland.
Yes.
Who says, sometimes puts in juniper berries and sometimes a splash of vodka.
Yes.
Is that a good idea?
Absolutely. As I said, there is many ways of making Gravlax, and with the juniper berries, that is definitely something that we have done before. It's more of a Swedish thing, with the use of berries for entrees and for mains, but definitely juniper berry gives it a bit more of a punch, a bit more of an earthy flavor, and also with the vodka, it actually speeds up the curing because of the alcohol. So when you start putting vodka or anything that has that, 30–40% alcohol, that will really speed up the process. So yeah, please let the question come if there are any more. So what I've done here is, at the moment, we can do picnics for 5 people. So I'm gonna mix some things together here. You can use whatever you have. I have some cold meats. I have some dolmadas. I have prawns, some oysters, some cheeses, some olives, some dips. And, you know, that's all things you can buy in, but, you know, just to make it that little bit extra special, you can then add the Gravlax to this. So again, just twist some roses around, place them down here, and you can impress your friends saying, actually, I made this myself. And that way it will definitely impress it up. I'm actually gonna draw out a name out of a barrel for a lucky winner that's watching tonight, who can come and pick one of these up as a prize, as a thank you for watching. So I have, this is for 5. Of course, if you're 5 men, that might not be enough, but that's definitely a little bit for everyone for like lunch, you know, with a glass of champagne or a glass of rosé. So put that in there, a little bit of dressing on. Oh, see if there's any left there. It's a little bit of dressing on. A little bit of dried fruit here for the cheese. And a little bit of fresh dill. And I always like to give everything a bit of a crunch. So here's some pumpkin seeds that I've toasted off with salt. That here with the bread is also really good with the cheese. So that's another way of using the Gravlax to impress your friends in a picnic box. So just to recap what we have done here today. You can cure the salmon today or tomorrow with the salt, the sugar, the fennel, and the dill. Put it in the fridge, and in 3 to 4 days' time, it will be ready to slice. You can slice it there, or you can freeze it down. So today we made the breakfast, which was Gravlax on smashed avocado, lettuce, a bit of salsa, poached egg, and a bit of dressing, and some pickled onion. Pickled onion, just half vinegar, half sugar, boil it, pour it over, last for a month at least. We did the little canapé, which would go well with the pipe Hansen. A little bit of dressing, the salmon. You can use the small pieces that when you start slicing and you don't get it quite right and they're really small, use it for small things like this, or use it for small things like a pasta. You can very easily turn that into a pasta if you slice it in the beginning and you don't get it really right to start with. And then we made a really simple but very pretty entree. So the slices of salmon, little bit of dressing around, whatever micro-herb, edible flowers you can get, a bit of toasted bread just for some crunch, and a little bit of olive oil or a little bit of, I used to use a bit of dill oil. And then last but not least, add it to a picnic box, add it to an antipasto platter, add it to, you know, whatever you like. You know, when you have the cheese platter and put out the snacks at night, a few of these pieces, you know, you can even, you know, add it to a few croutons with a bit of dressing, and that way, use it that way. And here you can put a lid on, and then tomorrow you're ready to go out for your picnic. I just want to mention that for upcoming events down here, we have, of course, our paella that we are doing next Saturday, which we've done every Saturday during lockdown. So we'll do that next Saturday, and then for the last time the Saturday after. But more importantly, and what I'm more excited to talk about is, of course, our opening on Monday, the 11th of October. We are all so excited, and we have come up with a new menu with some of the good old classics that you all love so much, and a few new things and a few new twists and turns. So we are very much looking forward to seeing you back on Wednesday the 11th. So what I would like to do is I would like to draw who is going to win the picnic hamper. It's not going to be this one. I'm going to make you a fresh one, don't worry. So I'll draw out the name and let's see who the lucky winner is. Kirsten Bachmann. So Kirsten, you're the lucky winner of this, not this one, but a beautiful hamper like this. I would love to make it to you whenever you can come and pick it up. Just get in contact with the team and we'll have it ready for you to pick up, or if you like to pick it up after the 11th of October, we can of course wait until then. And I also like to say that the club is also donating a beautiful French rosé to go with that. So Kirsten, let me know when you are ready to come and pick this up, and we'll have it ready. So again, thank you so much for all the members, clients, and staff for tuning in tonight. And thank you for the CYC staff to make this happen and the club. So I'd just like to say good night and look forward to seeing you again from the 11th of October. Thank you very much.